Have you ever felt like there's got to be a better way to learn something new? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on how your brain is actually wired to learn. And here's a hint. It's not about being a genius, it's about understanding the user manual for your own head.
You know that feeling, right? You're an hour into studying something, trying to wrap your head around a new idea, and then, bam, you hit a wall. It literally feels like your brain is a hard drive with zero space left.
And get this, that feeling isn't you failing. Not at all. It's actually a fundamental design feature of how we think. Your brain isn't broken, it's just hitting its built-in limits. To really get a grip on this, we're going to lean on a super powerful framework called cognitive load theory. This isn't just some pop psychology idea. It's a well-researched concept detailed in journals like Medical Teacher. Think of it as the blueprint for how we actually learn.
So first up, let's talk about your brain's bandwidth. Or more accurately, its pretty surprising lack of bandwidth. We've got to understand the one key limitation that really defines the whole learning game.
And it all comes down to something scientists call your working memory. The best way to picture it is like the RAM in your computer. It's that temporary mental workspace where you're actively juggling whatever new information you're focused on right now.
So, how much of this mental RAM do we actually have? Well, you might want to sit down for this. At any given moment, we can only really hold about 7 new things.
Yep, that's the famous 7 ± 2 rule. That incredibly small capacity creates a massive bottleneck for learning. If you try to shove too much new stuff through it at once, things just get lost. Learning grinds to a halt.
So you're probably thinking, wait a minute, if our bandwidth is that tiny, how does anyone ever learn something complex, like, I don't know, a new language or organic chemistry? The answer is this incredible trick your brain pulls off called chunking. It takes separate bits of info and cleverly bundles them into one single neat package. For example, the letters C-A-T. That takes up 3 slots in your working memory, but once you know the word cat, it becomes one single chunk, freeing up 2 slots for more info. That's how experts are built, not with bigger brains, but with better, more connected chunks.
Okay, so if this bottleneck is the problem, what's actually causing the traffic jam in our heads? Well, cognitive load theory says the clog is caused by 3 different types of load.
First, you've got intrinsic load. That's just how hard the topic is, period. Learning basic addition has a low intrinsic load. Learning calculus has a high one. Think of it as the weight of the raw ingredients for a recipe. Then there's extraneous load. This is the useless mental clutter from distractions, like your phone buzzing or confusing instructions. It's like trying to cook in a super messy, disorganized kitchen. And finally, there's germane load. This is the good stuff. This is the effort your brain uses to actually process, understand, and store information. This is the actual cooking of the meal.
And once you get this, you start to see a huge flaw in how a lot of us try to learn. It's something called the illusion of fluency. It's when you feel like you're learning a ton, but in reality, you're not.
This illusion often comes from a really common method called blocked practice. This is when you just hammer away at one thing over and over again. You do all the problems for Chapter A, then all the problems for Chapter B, and so on. Feels pretty productive, right?
But here's the trap, and research from the Journal of Educational Psychology nails it. When you do blocked practice, you already know which strategy to use before you even read the problem. Your brain isn't being challenged to figure anything out, it's just on autopilot, running the same program again and again.
So if that's the less effective way, what's the alternative? How do we practice smarter, not just harder? Well, the science points to a method that honestly feels a lot more difficult in the moment, but works way, way better.
And when you put the 2 methods side by side, it is night and day. Blocked practice feels easy, which gives you this false sense of mastery, but it leads to really poor memory down the road. The alternative, called interleaved practice, feels harder because it forces your brain to dig through its files and choose the right tool for the job. But that little bit of struggle is precisely what builds strong, long-lasting knowledge.
So what is this interleaved practice? It's just what it sounds like, mixing things up. Instead of doing a block of A, then a block of B, then C, you mix them all together in one session. You're constantly switching gears.
And the magic here is that interleaving forces you to practice the one skill that matters most, looking at a new problem and figuring out how to solve it. It's just like a real-world test or situation where problems don't come neatly labeled. And the results from studies? They're not even close. When researchers tested students later on, the group that mixed up their practice consistently smoked the group that used blocked practice. That desirable difficulty really pays off.
Okay, let's wrap all this up into a simple, actionable playbook that you can actually start using today.
Step 1. Wage war on the bad kind of load. Reduce your extraneous load.
Find a quiet spot, put your phone away, and just minimize all those useless distractions. Step 2, manage the difficulty. Control the intrinsic load by breaking big, scary topics into smaller, bite-sized pieces. Master the basics before you move on. And step 3, crank up the good load. Maximize your germane load by using interleaved practice and always asking yourself not just what the answer is, but why it's the answer.
So at the end of the day, learning anything faster isn't about some superhuman ability to just cram more information into your head. It's really about becoming a brilliant manager of that tiny but powerful workspace in your mind. It's about cutting out the noise, simplifying the complex, and focusing your mental energy where it actually builds lasting knowledge.
It kind of changes how you think about the whole process, doesn't it? Learning stops being about brute force and starts being about smart, focused strategy.
So, the only real question left is, what are you going to do with this? What's the first thing you're going to learn, not by practicing harder, but by practicing smarter?